You're going to fall. The hell? What are you doing? Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god, stop. Oh my god, stop. Hello fellow drawers, my name is Valerie, I am a digital artist. If you're an iPad kid, a fellow mobile user, a gamer, lover, just like me, then you know I got you. Life can be really hard for ones like you and me. I cry every time I have to use a computer. Computers make me feel small and stupid, and I don't like. I like to feel big and smart, and that's why I use a device that treats me like I am brain dead. I carry the title of the iPad kid with honor, you know, and getting this thing for my drawing was a life changer. In this video, I'll give you a full guide to digital drawing in PROCREATE on iPad Pro. All the features, tools you need to know, import, export, time lapses, canvases, brushes. I will show you the whole process step by step. So if you have just downloaded PROCREATE, then you can just follow along. Okay, let's get started. When you open PROCREATE for the first time, you will not have any of these beautiful masterpieces like I do. In order to create your first canvas and start your first drawing, you have to tap this plus button in the top right corner. You can choose from canvas sizes that are given to you by the app, but I would suggest creating your own canvas and then using it for all your drawings because there are some important canvas settings that you might want to change. Press this icon in the top right corner, create a new canvas. Here you can put in the size that you want. I use 1660 pixels by 2000 pixels. That's just what I prefer for my character drawings. You can put in any size. The smaller you make your canvas, the worse the quality of your image will be because there will be less pixels, therefore it will look more pixelated. But don't make it like too big either because there is no need in that. You will just have a very heavy file that will take up a lot of storage on your device. In the color profile settings, you have two main options. It's RGB and SMIC. The two formats you might need at all is Display P3 and this first sRGB. Display P3 has the biggest color profile, so your drawings will translate all the tones and shades very well. It will be very colorful, but an image of this color profile cannot be printed, so you can only use those images for online display. And the sRGB is less colorful, but it is the most universal. It can be used for online display and for printing as well, but I use P3 because I don't print my drawings. The rest of these are for professional print as well as SMIC. I don't know much about that. You might know that PROCREATE automatically records a time-lapse video of your drawing process. It's fascinating. I love this feature. I don't have to record anything myself. The app does it for me. But by default, the quality of that video is not the best. So if you are planning to export your time-lapse videos and post them somewhere, then you would probably want this quality to be the best it can be. So here in the time-lapse settings tab, you can see that we can choose the quality of our time-lapse. I put it on 2K because, you know, my canvas is even less than that, and your time-lapse quality cannot be better than your actual drawing's quality. If your drawing is 2K pixels, your time-lapse cannot get it to 4K pixels because like that's impossible. And plus 4K time-lapses will probably eat up your iPad storage like crazy, dude. Like, the last tab is canvas properties. Here we can see that our background color is white and visible by default. You can change that if you want, but we don't need that. Okay, so now we have a canvas and we're ready to draw. But how do I do that? Let me tell you. Let me walk you through actually. Here we have our color wheel, or a square or a circle, whatever you want. I prefer the wheel. Here you can change the color, and on the inside you can change the hue. Here you have the color history, so you don't lose the colors you have recently used. And here you make your own palettes. Just tap the color on an empty slot, or if you don't want it, then hold it and delete or set another color. Next up is brushes. PROCREATE provides you with a huge variety of brushes of any kind. There are sketch brushes, ink brushes, air brushes, texture brushes. You can try out all of them for yourself and see what you like and what you feel comfortable with. I use the default medium airbrush for all of my drawings. You can also play around with each individual brush's settings or make your own custom brushes or import brushes sets that have already been made by other people. There are a lot of free brush sets that you can just download. There are some that you can purchase. Here I have some fun brush sets that I found for free. This brush set I won in like a drawing contest from this artist, but you don't need any fancy brush sets at all. It's so unnecessary. The brushes you have here are way more than enough. These same brushes can be set to your eraser and smudge tool, so you can smudge and erase in different shapes. You can change the size and the opacity of your brush in this sidebar. The button in the middle can be set to perform different functions. I'll talk about that later when going through settings. It is set on eyedropper by default. I personally don't use it at all. I prefer to use the eyedropper tool just by holding my finger, and you can choose any color on your canvas. The two also useful tools here are the lasso tool and the transform or move tool. The lasso tool allows you to select certain areas on your drawing. It has 4 ways of doing that. Automatic chooses the area automatically, but it doesn't always get all the pixels, so you can hold and then move your Apple Pencil to control the selection threshold. Freehand allows you to select an area by hand. Rectangle makes a rectangular selection. Ellipse make an elliptical selection, so you can add or remove the selection. You can invert the selection, so it makes everything around the selection selected instead. You can copy and paste. It will appear as a different layer on top of your current layer. Then the transform tool. This allows you to transform the object. The green thing rotates the object and the orange thing rotates the selection frame. With freeform, you can squish the object vertically and horizontally. With uniform, you can scale it uniformly. With distort, you can move it in perspective. And with warp, you get this grid / mesh that allows you to move it like a 3D object. With any transformation mode, you can flip the object, you can rotate it 45 degrees, fit to canvas. Now, interpolation. It allows you to prevent the object from losing its pixels quality when scaled and transformed. The nearest neighbor is the lowest quality one, and the bicubic is the highest. Layers is probably the most important part in digital art and the biggest advantage over traditional art. So you can make your sketch on one layer and then you create another layer for your line art, for example. And if, let's say, you erase something on this layer, it won't affect anything on the other layers. You can turn your layer visibility on and off. If you swipe left, you will have 3 options. You can delete the layer, duplicate it, or lock it. Now, there is lock and there is also alpha lock. You can activate the alpha lock feature by swiping right with 2 fingers or just tapping the layer and pressing alpha lock. When the layer is locked, you cannot do anything with that at all. But when the layer is alpha locked, you can do almost everything with it except draw something new on it. You can draw inside of the shape that you already have and color it however you want without worrying about going outside the shape. When you tap the layer, you also have a bunch of options. You can rename the layer, select it, copy to paste it later. Fill the layer will fill everything on this layer with the current color. You can also do that by dragging and dropping the color like this. You can clear the layer from everything on it. Invert will invert all your colors to make them opposite. Reference feature allows you to color drop into the bounds of this reference layer, but on a different layer. I never used this feature at all, actually. Mask, honestly have no idea what this is still, so let's just skip. Clipping mask, however, is a very useful and important feature. It is essentially a layer on top that is clipped to your original layer, so you can only draw within anything on this original layer. I usually use this to create like a shading layer, a lighting layer, or a texture layer. So when you tap here on this and letter, it will open this bar. Here you can change the opacity of your layer, and here are the blend modes. So essentially, when you're setting a layer on any blend mode, it means that everything you put on this layer will be affected by the colors underneath. So for example, multiply, it is used for shading layers normally. So if you put down the color, it gets multiplied and darkened by the color underneath. And that helps you create shadows. Some blend modes make colors darker and some make colors lighter. I would say that blend modes are essentially like filters for your drawing. Here you have all the adjustments you can make to your layer or the selected part of the layer. Hue, saturation, and brightness is pretty self-explanatory. Here you can change the hue, the saturation, and brightness. You're welcome. Color balance I hardly ever use, but you can also play around with the colors of your shadows, midtones, highlights. Curves is basically the same thing. I don't use that. Gradient map is basically a collection of filters that you can use to create your own. I don't use that either. Then here are 3 blur effects. Gaussian blur blurs the object radially. Motion blur blurs the object as if it's in motion. For perspective blur, you can set this focus point, and the further from the focus point you get, the blurrier the image is. With all these, you can also choose to blur the entire layer, or you can blur it manually with an Apple Pencil if you want to blur some certain parts. Then here are a bunch of special effects like noise, sharpen, bloom, glitch, halftone, chromatic aberration, and at last, the best tool ever, the liquify tool. Liquify can help you out a lot. Let's say you already have like your line art, but then you flip your canvas and see that the face is all crooked and ugly, but no need to erase anything. This is not traditional art, you dummy. You can just use the liquify tool and just like bring the face back in place. And look at that, beautiful. Now the last thing is the actions menu. On add, you can insert a file, a photo, or add text. On canvas, you can crop and resize the canvas. Then there is a drawing guide. You can set it to grid, isometric, perspective, or symmetry. It's also very useful. I use the symmetry one a lot when I want to make like a cup, for example, or like some sort of weapon that is like really complex and I need to make it like even and symmetrical. Sometimes I cheat and I use it to draw a front view face, but that is only if you're a very lazy little guy like me. So when you set this drawing guide, you can tap on any layer and you press this drawing assist button and your lines will follow this drawing guide. It's a very useful feature. Next, you can add a reference. It can be your canvas, an imported image, or your own face if you want to like make a mask for Instagram or something. Then you can flip your canvas vertically and horizontally, which I suggest doing pretty often. Here you can find canvas info. Then here you can share your work in various formats. In video, you can watch your time-lapse recording. You can turn it off and delete it or export it, full or 30 seconds long. In preferences, you have a lot of settings that you can play with and to make the drawing process more comfortable. I will not go through all of them because there are a lot. The ones that I will point out is switching the interface from right hand to left hand. If you're a left-handed person, you can do that. Here in gesture controls, go to general, and here turn off a label painting with finger. This will prevent your finger from making accidental strokes and ruining your drawing. Like, trust me, just do that. And oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention, a tap with 2 fingers is an undo and 3 fingers is redo. It is very convenient and you will inevitably start doing that on paper and look like a total idiot. I had this necklace in my shirt the entire time. You didn't even see that. So, okay, quick run through of my drawing process. So I create a canvas. I choose my standard canvas that I use for all of my drawings. Then I take this medium airbrush, my favorite brush. I have a layer. I make a sketch. Then I lower this layer's opacity. I create another layer on top and I start doing my line art layer. When I'm done with my line art, I put the line art layer on multiply, and I create another layer and put it underneath my line art layer. And on that layer, I start putting down my flat colors. First, I just fill in the entire silhouette of my character. Then I swipe right with 2 fingers to alpha block this layer so I don't accidentally draw on it. I also alpha lock the line art layer. Then I tap my flat color layer, I press select, then I create a layer on top, and so I dissect this big silhouette of my character. I make a lot of layers that contain different parts of my character. I don't worry about the colors, I just kind of indicate each layer with one color, and I make sure that these pieces of my character don't touch each other, so I can later just fill in the color of these particular pieces. So for example, like I make skin on one layer, eyes on a separate layer on top, then hair on a separate layer. This is one layer, this is another layer, this is also another layer, and the parts of each layer do not touch each other. So then I create a clip-in mask on top of every single flat color layer. I usually put it on multiply to create the shadows, and I just start shading every single layer. Then when I'm done with that, I create, for example, a screen layer for adding some highlight. I can also add like an overlay or whatever you want. That's basically how I make my drawings in Procreate. If you liked this video, if it was useful in any capacity, then press like, subscribe. I will post more content like this in the future. You can check out my art on Instagram or here on YouTube Shorts. Good night, good day, goodbye.